Okay, so today we're looking at Lecture 2 of Jung's Vision Seminars. This is from 1930. So Lecture 2 starts with a second vision. The first vision from Lecture 1 was a peacock with its beak pointed at a man's neck. But for purposes of the introduction, I didn't review that symbolism. But today we're going to look at a few dreams. This second lecture starts with the second vision, which is of an old shoe with a large hole in it, and the patient thought that the shoe was too old for her to wear. So Jung interprets this as a reference to the patient's system of psychological adaptation, including, most importantly, those of which she's unaware. In particular, those modes of adaptation to archetypal conditions which she has inherited. So recall that archetypes are psychological representations of human instinct. For example, the instinct of the mother, the child, the self, etc. So here we're concerned with some manner of psychological adaptation that's been inherited by the patient related to one or more of her human instincts. In particular, Jung considers, with reference to the shoe, a system of adaptations related to unconscious instincts that are outmoded or no longer working in the patient's present circumstances. So in the next dream the patient has, she's in her bedroom when a woman enters through the window. She's on the second floor, and this woman enters through the window and tells her that the house is on fire. So Jung comments here that this is psychological progress. Where the lecture started with a vision of a worn out shoe, now something new is coming into consciousness, that is, coming in through the window. So Jung interprets the house being on fire to be a symbol of the patient's system of adaptations to her instinctual life that are threatened with destruction and are being burnt down. So in the next dream, the patient encounters a little boy who she's kept waiting as she changed her clothes in the other room. When she goes to talk to the boy, she tells him she'd like to play him a song, but the little boy says, "You have kept me waiting, and now I will teach you how to play." So Jung interprets the little boy as a cursory image of the feelings in the unconscious, the undeveloped feeling function that's waiting to be heard or waiting to speak. The symbol of the child is sometimes associated with divinity, as we recall, for example, the Christian idea that one must become like a little child to enter the kingdom of heaven. So the feeling function then is beginning to indicate to this patient that it must speak. It's represented as a child because it's inferior, not in the sense of lacking intensity, but in the sense of being underutilized and underdeveloped. Here too is the idea that the feeling function as a child tends not to obey the adult or the conscious mind. So as we've discussed, the idea for treatment is to bring the patient into contact with their feelings, but these feelings have been left underdeveloped. They've been left as a child because they're too intense, because they have the possibility of burning the house down or destroying her typical mode of psychological adaptation. And so they're left immature, and the conscious system of adaptation to instincts becomes worn, unenergized, stuck in the past like an old shoe, and the little boy is going to teach her how to play music or how to feel. So up to this point, Jung remarks the patient has treated her feeling function as she does her intellect. She uses the intellect for what she wants. She wants to teach the little boy how to play a song, but the feeling function says no, and it's that psychological adaptation that's caused her predicament. The adaptation which says, I will sit down and tell my intellect what to do, and the intellect will give me ideas. Jung thinks that's not going to work here. She can't tell the feeling function what to do, but she'll need to be led by this little boy towards her feelings. So previously, in trying to control her emotional nature, she has rendered her psychological adaptations tired and worn out, and her feelings are out of control, liable to burn down the house of her conscious mode of adaptation. The little boy then represents the new attitude to feeling that will take her by the hand and lead her into her unconscious. So the final dream of this lecture tells us where the boy is taking her, and we'll pick this up next time when we look at Lecture 3. The patient dreams she's on a boat with a man, and they're rowing towards a place where 4 valleys converge, and shepherds are bringing sheep down to the water. So we notice here that the little boy has now been replaced by an adult man who is a music teacher, and here I think it's worth stressing that Jung does not interpret this man to be him. So the patient is not dreaming of her analyst. Rather, it's the patient who is female, it's her unconscious masculine nature that she's dreaming of. She's dreaming of an aspect of herself. So the patient's being led by this aspect of herself towards her unconscious feelings to the place where 4 valleys converge, which we can interpret as a symbol for the center of the natural world, or possibly, Jung suggests, the Garden of Eden, which is the convergence of 4 points of the cross, representing a symbol of completeness or totality.